All right, let's dive into one of the most talked about technologies out there, blockchain. We're going to break down how this digital trust machine really works. And I promise, by the end of this, you'll see why it's set to change so much more than just money.
So, let's kick things off with a huge problem in our digital world. Just think about it for a second. Any file, any picture, any piece of data, it can be copied perfectly with a simple right click. So, in a world like that, how do you prove something is the original? How do you know a digital transaction is real and not some fake copy? This is the exact puzzle that blockchain was designed to solve.
And the solution? Well, this definition from Wikipedia pretty much nails it. At its heart, a blockchain is just a shared notebook, a ledger. But here's the kicker. It's open for tons of people to see, it's incredibly hard to mess with, and it's built to last, well, forever. It's a whole new way of keeping records that actually builds trust right into the system.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. How does this super secure notebook actually work? We're about to break it down to its most basic parts.
You know what's so cool here is how simple the main idea really is. A blockchain is just a growing list of records, which we call blocks, all linked together. Now, each block has some data, like transaction info, and two other really important things: its own unique hash and the hash of the block that came right before it. And you should think of that hash as a digital fingerprint. It's one of a kind and totally unique to the data inside that specific block.
Okay, so we've got our basic building block. Now let's see how these pieces get forged together to create that powerful, basically unbreakable chain. This is where the magic happens. First, a new transaction occurs, and that data gets bundled into a new block. Then, that block gets its own unique hash, its fingerprint. But, and this is the most important part, it also contains the hash of the block that came before it. See? That's what creates the link in the chain. So if you tried to go back and change the data in an old block, its hash would change, which would break the link to the next block and the next one, and so on. The whole chain after that point would be invalid, and everyone on the network would know instantly that something's wrong.
So this special structure gives blockchains some seriously powerful features. I like to think of them as its 4 superpowers. And together, they're what make this tech so revolutionary.
Superpower number 1 is decentralization. Instead of having one central place in charge, like a bank controlling the big book of accounts, a copy of the ledger is shared with everyone on the network. There's no single point of failure and no one person you have to trust, because the trust is literally baked into the system itself.
And building right on top of that is transparency. Everyone in the network can look at the same ledger of transactions. Now, your personal identity can stay private, but the records themselves are open for anyone to check. This creates a shared, agreed-upon version of the truth for everybody involved.
And that shared truth is made permanent by the third superpower, immutability. Just like we saw with that chain of hashes, once a block is added, it's basically set in stone. You can't edit it, you can't delete it. And that's what makes the ledger so incredibly trustworthy.
And all of this leads to its final superpower, security. Just incredible security. The crypto links between blocks, the fact that the network is spread out everywhere, and the permanent record, it all works together to make it nearly impossible for someone to cheat the system without getting caught immediately.
Now, it's really important to know that blockchain isn't just one single thing. It's more like a whole family of technologies. So let's really quickly go over the main types and a few key terms that you're going to hear all the time.
So, the first big split you'll hear about is public versus private. Public blockchains, like Bitcoin, are exactly what they sound like. They're open for anyone to join in. They're all about that wide-open decentralization. Private blockchains, on the other hand, are permissioned. You need an invite. Companies often use these when they need more control, privacy, and frankly, faster transaction speeds.
So who exactly is holding all these copies of the ledger? Well, that's where nodes come in. A node is just any computer on the network that keeps a full, up-to-date copy of the blockchain. They are the actual pillars holding up the entire decentralized system.
Okay, but some of these nodes have a really special job. We call them miners. On certain blockchains, these miners are all competing to solve a really hard math problem. The first one to solve it gets the right to add the next block to the chain, and they usually get a reward for it. It's kind of like everyone racing to finish a Sudoku puzzle, and the winner gets to write the next page in our shared notebook.
Now, these chains can hold more than just transaction records. They can hold computer code. And this leads to something called smart contracts, which are an absolute game changer. Think of them as programs that automatically run when certain conditions are met. It's just like a vending machine. You put the money in, the machine automatically gives you a snack. No middleman, no waiting, it just works.
Okay, so we've got this amazingly powerful new technology. But what does it actually mean for the real world? Let's take a good, balanced look at both its huge potential and the challenges it's still facing.
You know, the truth is, blockchain today is this incredible mix of promise and problems. On one side, you have these massive benefits like transparency and security. But on the other, you've got some very real challenges. Big public blockchains can be slow and use a ton of energy. The rules and regulations are still being figured out, and trying to plug this new tech into our old systems, yeah, that can get really complicated and expensive.
So here's the most important takeaway. This technology is about so much more than just cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. Seriously, start thinking bigger. Imagine tracking food all the way from a farm to your table on a ledger that can't be changed, guaranteeing it's safe. Or what about creating voting systems that are totally secure and transparent? Or even giving each of us full control over our own digital identities? The possibilities are just huge.
At the end of the day, blockchain is a new foundation for trust. It lets us prove things are real and exchange value without needing to rely on some big company or government in the middle. It's an incredibly powerful tool. And so the real question for all of us is what problems, what systems out there that are broken or lack trust should we point this thing at next?